Hello, everyone, and welcome to today's Momentum Monday. And we're having a special Momentum Monday today. We're actually going to do like a mini workshop, and I'll tell you more about that. So, my name is Emily McHugh, the Supercharged Coach, and I'm happy to have you with me today as we go into another topic that's really important: the difference between goals and projects and how to decide. So it's pretty much going to be like a mini supercharged mini workshop because it's going to involve showing you some slides and so forth. But the key thing I want you to think about in this week's newsletter, actually last week's Supercharged Weekly newsletter. And by the way, if you do not receive the newsletter, I invite you to subscribe. Okay, just go to emilymchugh.com/free gift and you'll get on the weekly newsletter. And our supercharged thought for the week was random reaction versus purposeful intention. And I want you to just think about that for a moment because many times we get caught up just reacting to things as opposed to intentionally and purposefully planning what we're doing. So one of the ways this happens is when people set goals and they have all these goals, but they're not really clear on the process to bring the goals to reality and the workflow and the steps that they need to take. And so today is about that purposeful intention so that you are actually getting closer and closer to achieving the goals. And we know at the beginning of the year, the resolutions and all these things people set, but where they tend to fall short is that there is not a plan behind it and a plan that's realistic to take into account the vagaries of the year ahead. So in today's Supercharged mini workshop, that is what we're going to go right into. So without any further ado, let me share on about this. So goals and projects. All right. Yes, indeed. So I'm sure many of you have goals that you are working on. So in the newsletter this week, I encourage people to think about goals that they have, like to select one goal that you may want to accomplish this quarter in the first quarter and to focus on that. So you may have a series of goals. So I gave out some downloads in the newsletter to help with this process, and we're going to go through those downloads today in our mini workshop. All right, so the first thing is, what is a goal? So a goal is an overview. It's a big picture. When you want to break down the goal, we know it's an objective you're working towards, but it's like on the high level. And some of the key things we want our goals to have, it's the thing that we're focusing on, that big picture perspective. It has a metric, it has a time frame, and it also has some flexibility built into it. And I highlight that word because many times we feel like if we set a goal and it's definitive and it's specific, that there is not much room for change. And I think that's another fallacy that we tend to fall into, that we cannot change our goals. And of course we can. We can change, we can adjust them. And most of the times we will need to. But the key is that you can still stay on track. Now, with a project, it is the breakdown of the goal. It is the implementation strategy. It is the specific things that are entailed to make that goal come to life. So I like to break down my projects into categories because usually you need more than one project to fulfill a goal. And I'll share what that looks like in a moment. But so the categories of projects, and then from there you have your tasks, specific action steps that you're going to take each day, and then the time frame for the project, and then a deadline. Now with a goal, you can obviously have a deadline as well, but I highlight in the project to have the deadline because this is the series of deadlines that roll up into the goal being completed. Okay, because a goal is not one step, it's a series of multiple steps many times, and it's a series of projects that have to be completed for your goal to be achieved. Hence the deadline with the project. So that's a really important point that I want you to meditate. Okay, next point. so I'm going to share with you an example of a goal. So the goal I set for this year, one of my key goals for the year, was to launch a Supercharged Club in the first quarter, which has happened. I have indeed launched it. And my metric is to have 1,000 members by December 31st, 2023, the end of this year. So I have 12 months to achieve this goal. And so the flexibility comes in that the numbers and dates can change. So remember I showed you in the prior slide, that you have an objective, a metric, a time frame, and flexibility. So in my example here, I'm giving you my objective, launch, metric, 1,000 members, time frame, the date, end of the year, and the flexibility is the numbers and dates can change. What really matters is that I work towards this objective. Whether I hit it or not is not really the most important thing. More importantly is that I'm taking the steps that are moving me towards achieving the goal. That is very important to understand. That way you give yourself some mercy and grace if you do or if you don't hit it exactly, or if you even exceed it. So the first step is involved after you identify the goal is start to think about what are some of the project categories that you need to create that are necessary to make that goal come to pass. So you may have multiple goals for the year, launch a podcast, write a book, do different things. You want to focus right now on the one goal and all that it takes to make that one goal happen. Where we get lost is we start to look at all the goals and all the things, and they all kind of, float into each other. And that's something we cannot have happen. So, this is something that really begs the point of what you need to really accomplish this. So, for example, for me, I have to create content, I have to have systems, I have to have a membership. So those are some of the broad categories. And from there, I'm going to break it down further. Now, let me pause to share with you. These are the two downloads that were available to you from the newsletter if you got last week's newsletter. And if you don't, if you're a part of the Supercharge Club, then you'll have this automatically in your planner. So these are the sheets that I want to work with you on today. But we're going to be focusing on one goal and the first quarter only. So what you would do is replicate this throughout for all your other goals throughout the year. So we start with this sheet where we're looking at the goal. Okay, launch this club, launch your membership. And then I said the key categories are content, systems, and memberships. This is the same thing I just wrote on the prior page, just in a different format. But what I've added to this is a month of when these things are going to happen, what quarter they're going to happen in, and then some key metrics that I want to follow. So some of the key metrics, such as create a workbook, you'll see that up top, by a certain date. Select a membership platform by another date. Amplify outreach by another date. Okay, so these are specific things that you want to do by a certain time frame. With that, you can then go into putting them into that bigger chart that I mentioned before. But it starts with that breakdown. From there, you will then look at the next thing, which is like the systems. And you say, okay, I need to do these three key things. Now, it's way more than three things, obviously, but just to give you an example for the workshop today. But this is the idea. I have to research and select a platform by a certain date, set up the platform by another date for the membership, and so on and so forth, whatever techie things I have to do. And then put that on there for February. But obviously there are other steps involved, which is like tasks that each thing breaks down into. And those are the kinds of things we're going into more detail in the actual Supercharge Club. We're kind of walking through all the steps, but today the focus is on goals and projects. So just distinguish the two. You have a goal that has different projects. So you will notice I still have goals 2 and 3 there. I'm not paying those any mind right now, just focusing on goal number 1. And then finally over here, like the next section for membership, I would have, whatever's involved for that. And then as I said, would put it on the calendar for March for those 3. So I hope you kind of understand what I'm trying to share with you. So it's like taking the goal, breaking it down into categories, which would be content, systems, membership. And from there, breaking those down into projects, specific projects. Under the project category of content, it has other like sub-projects. And under the sub-projects, you then have tasks that you would complete. That is really the big overview of what it takes to do that. And so kind of going back to where I was starting to like to give you some examples, when I was sharing in the beginning about random reaction versus purposeful intention, one of the things that I love to have around, especially this time of year, springtime, are orchids. I love orchids. My mom loved orchids. My cousin Ruddy loved orchids. He had an orchid house in Jamaica. And so the thing about orchids is that you have to be very patient with them and wait for them to come to fruition. So maybe your goal is to have beautiful orchids around you. Well, the project is to care for the orchid. You have to water it at the right time, give it the right light, nurture it, all these little fussy things it needs so that one day you will have these beautiful flowers. And so it's the same process for any goal that you have. It's all the steps that it takes, that nurturing step. And you realize that we don't have the flowers all year long. It's usually certain times of year, but certain orchids can last longer than others. And I think this is one of them. But anyway, the point is you want to really break it down so that you can see the big picture of where you want to go and then understand what it takes to arrive at that place. All right, so that's just one example. So I invite you and encourage you to think of examples that you're working on, projects that you're working on. Apply these steps and techniques to them as well to see what you can, how you will do it, and share with me as well, how you're coming along. I hope that really helps you to get closer to your goals and projects. So if you have any questions at all on this topic or anything you would like to add, please, I invite you to share them in the comments and let me know. Let me know what you think about what I've shared with you today. So in conclusion, again, I want to thank you for watching, joining me again for another Momentum Monday. Remember to subscribe if you're watching on YouTube to the channel at Supercharged Coach. Like, comment, share, again, tag a friend. And see the description or comments for links. Get your free gift to get on the Supercharged newsletter. I should put the link on there, shouldn't I? It will be in the links. That's why I have the links in the description. But it is Emily McHugh / free gift, okay? And that's how you get it, and with some positive mindset tips. And again, I invite you to join the Supercharge Club if you're not already a member. We meet twice a month. We have a wonderful time. We work through the planning session. We work through goals and projects and all those types of things more closely so that you can plan your year with more confidence. So until then, I see you next time. And happy Momentum Monday and stay supercharged.